Hey Rebecca, how you doing?
I am doing well. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm great. So welcome everyone. This is a XenTegra Fortinet webinar on SASE. This is I believe, our fourth webinar in a series of SASE webinars over about the past 3 to 4 months. And super happy today to be talking to Rebecca and talking about Fortinet.
Thanks, Aaron. By way of introduction, my name is Rebecca Bro. I'm a channel SE here with Fortinet. And what I thought I would do today is take you through some of our observations with regards to just technology shifts and the types of business outcomes that our customers are experiencing with the Fortinet Unified SASE solution. We'll get into a little bit about the solution itself, and then, wrap it up a little bit. Does that sound good, Aaron?
Yeah, thanks. And quickly, I'm Aaron Banner. I run two practices here at XenTegra, security practice and the networking practice. My background, I'm a retired Army colonel, spent about 31 years in the military, and the majority of that, about 26 years, was focused on networking and security. So we'll move on from the agenda. Who is XenTegra? So XenTegra is a company made up of multiple companies. We've got five different companies as part of XenTegra. One is our nearshore, that's in Canada, both servicing, Canada just in the way that XenTegra LLC does in the US, and also resources that we can use to help our clients from a nearshore perspective. We have XenTegra India, which is our offshore company. Again, we can leverage those resources from India, but we are also, doing the same thing, acting as a VAR in India today. We have our SLED Fed Gov team. They have recently been rebranded as FlexKey. So if you see FlexKey out there, that is basically our what used to be our Gov team. We have XenTegra One. XenTegra One is focused on the SMB market for XenTegra. They are based out of California, and basically the reason we have that SMB company there is we have basically tailored lots of different things, whether it be my security portfolio or how we do networking. They offer MSP services. So we've just tailored that business unit to our SMB clients. And then finally, we have our services division, our SMP provider, or I'm sorry, our MSP provider. So there we're doing managed services, contract support through a variety of different products and companies. Fortinet clearly is one of our largest in that area. Aside from the companies that fall under XenTegra, we also have five different practices. We have the security practice and the networking practice, which I just spoke about. We have our ServiceNow practice, or modern applications. They focus on AI and integration of ServiceNow, helping clients to make the best of their ServiceNow platform. We have our modern data center practice, and so that's focused strictly on the data center and some of the security aspects like disaster recovery as a service, things like that, in order to help our clients with their data center needs. And then finally, we have modern workspace, which focuses mainly on EUC. That's where a bulk of our Citrix business resides. So just a little bit about XenTegra. I'll talk more about the VAR aspect in a different slide. But there's a lot of reasons why we are different than your typical VAR. But just for the purpose of talking about how we approach things as a VAR, and the reason we provide value to our clients is because we partner with companies like Fortinet. We become experts in their products and experts in delivering services around that product. And so by doing that, we achieve the highest level of status as a partner for Fortinet, and we can take those the margins that we get, we get points on that. So we get a lesser charge on that we can then pass on that value to our clients. And that's really how we provide value as being a partner of Fortinet or any other vendors that we're aligned with. We have consulting services, you name it, SASE services. You know, as I said, I do a lot of delivery on various vendors. Fortinet is probably our biggest vendor that we do that for, as well as within our MSP, the managed service piece. We can do consulting on many things. We do a lot of identity consulting, consulting on Citrix services. I mean, Citrix services is kind of where we were built from, right? Again, I'll talk about that on a follow-on slide too. Something just that our CEO and founder kind of the reason he started this company. But you know, while I'm talking about him, you know, he wanted to build this business so that we can provide services and match products to current needs, the challenges that companies are having. So we develop solutions and we build a community and serve that community through those solutions that we develop. And then finally, our complementary assessments. So we offer various complementary assessments, typically 4 hour maximum or less. And those assessments have a wide range, some focused on vendor products and some focused on the services that we provide on a daily basis. So what I was saying here is, you know, Andy, he started his career in Citrix, and then he noticed a disconnect between Citrix, the product, and you know the client's ability to derive the most value out of that product. So he wanted to set up a company that serves that community, so that whatever product it is they have that we align with, that now we can develop services or consulting or whatever it may be to best help our clients make the most out of what that product is. And I was saying, hey, this is how we're different. This is how we differ from all the other VARs that you've heard of. The complementary assessments, which I just kind of talked about, XenTegra educational webinars, podcasts. So we are big into education. And so when you look at the webinars, the podcasts, and the conference passes that we provide, that's all about our desire to build that community, service that community, and educate that community. So today we're here to educate that community. Workshops, you know, fall right into that. But let me talk a little bit more about the conference passes, whether it's RSA, Black Hat, Citrix, or I'm sorry, Cisco Live, Fortinet Accelerate, um, many of these large conferences that we do, and we or that we participate in, and then we buy passes and we offer those to our clients so that we can get them there and they can get educational value out of going to those conferences. I mean, a lot of times, you know, it's very hard to get a company to pay for a pass for one of their employees to go to. So we help with that. So we offer 90% discounted passes in most cases. And with that, I want to talk quickly about the raffle item at the end of this. So, you know, Fortinet is providing 3 sets of these paddles for, I believe that's for pickleball. And so basically at the end of this, we will look at, you know, who attended this conference or who attended this webinar. We'll do a raffle based on that participation, and we'll contact you after this to let you know you won. And with that, Rebecca, I think I am going to get off the stage. One other point to add, though, is that I'm sorry. Yeah, what one other point to add is that we have, because there's a pretty small group of participants in this webinar today, instead of having you chat or raise your hand for your questions, please just chime in. Your mics are available, so just chime in and jump into the conference with a question. Okay, Rebecca, thanks. I'll stop sharing and send it over to you.
All right. Okay. Hopefully you all are able to see the beginning of the slideware. Okay, so as I mentioned before, my name is Rebecca Bro. Please, you know, feel free to be interactive. We have a small enough group. You're welcome to put your questions in the chat if that's more comfortable for you. And I'll pause. There's a few natural points that I'll pause and just make sure, you know, we're all comfortable. All right, so what I thought I would do today is just provide a little bit of feedback on the things that we're observing. So Fortinet, I don't even have a who is Fortinet slide. Fortinet has been around the block, right? So we were kind of founded in the mid 2000. So it's been close to a quarter of a century that we have been providing cybersecurity solutions to our various customers and partners. And over time, as I'm sure you guys have observed, there's a tremendous shift. Basically, there's constant change. So some of the things that we've observed in the last many years, and they sometimes they accelerate, sometimes they slow down, but they're always shifting, is migrations of types of users, how the users are accessing various services and applications, the types of services and applications that they're accessing and that organizations are leveraging to run their businesses, how those are deployed. So just the kind of landscape of who is doing what, right? So we know that many organizations, in large part due to COVID, but some of this was happening before then. That certainly was, an accelerator for sure. Migrating their users to a remote or now hybrid workforce model. The applications themselves have gone through also myriad of transformation. So just the sheer volume of applications and services that organizations leverage nowadays, that skyrocketed. The form factors they take, how they're managed, where they're deployed, all the under the hood of those various services, that also has the full spectrum of cloud delivered, traditionally delivered, or simply subscribed services where the organizations themselves don't actually have any control, let alone visibility into what's behind the scenes operating that application. And then in parallel to all of that is a whole segment of IoT devices. So devices that are not tied necessarily to an individual user. So headless devices, right? Think anything that's on the network that might be a sensor or, printers and all kinds of things. Printers were historically kind of the example in that space. But gosh, nowadays, my refrigerator can tell me things. It keeps track of the weather and blah blah blah, right? So the the scope of what's considered kind of networking or connectivity in our world these days has exploded on so many different dimensions. And so that adds complexity, right? And the other piece that has exploded, of course, is the bad actors, the threats, the vulnerabilities. That has not only kept pace, but frankly accelerated even faster than technology shifts have. So that is kind of the landscape that we're all contending with these days. And the trend that we are seeing come out of that is a realization that we need our technologies to transform in order to achieve what is still the holy grail. It is consistent security and experience for any user doing anything, right? So it's a very simple concept, but how to actually go about doing that becomes, ever more complicated the more permutations of technology there are. And we see that come in a variety of different ways, right? That shows up in a lot of ways. So in terms of, who are our users? What are they doing? How are they connecting into environments? That, of course, we know has shifted significantly. We now have many remote users, some that are just work from home, permanently, others that are work from an office permanently, and others that are hybrid, many that are mobile, right? And what they are actually using to access business critical applications and services, that whole what's in between, that has shifted a lot over time as well. So we see no longer are they at a traditional location with whatever network infrastructure or MPLS is coming from that location. Now they might be accessing from their mobile device through their internet provider or their cell phone provider. Sometimes they're at their home office, sometimes they're at a Panera Bread, right? So and the plumbing, if you will, the internet plumbing or the networking plumbing that they use to access the various services is all over the place. So by its nature, extremely inconsistent, both on the experience side and on the security side. So historically, some of the ways that we have, in the cybersecurity or networking space, looked to provide consistency, provide some of that control, is with the traditional VPN, virtual private network, where we have the ability to kind of nail up a tunnel into our corporate office. And then that umbilical cord, if you will, or that becomes our conduit for accessing protected services and assets and resources. The challenge is what we see on the right side of the screen. Well, that's only one pretty narrow use case or topology that we need to account for. So nowadays, many of those applications and services are no longer in our data centers. They might be deployed up in the cloud, in an infrastructure provider like AWS or Azure, what have you. In that case, we still have some visibility, we have some control, although slightly less. We still have some control and responsibility for that application, but not the infrastructure that it sits upon, right? So we're starting to peel back our control and visibility in those environments. Then even further, really the last probably 10 years, there's been this significant wave of SaaS offerings, software as a service, where instead of an organization deploying an application themselves, they simply subscribe to one that is offered in the cloud. And we definitely have seen, this idea of shadow IT, which is, pockets in the organization having a particular business requirement they want to satisfy. And so they, as a business unit, instead of the entire enterprise, they as a team might subscribe to a particular service. So now we start to have very disjointed and disparate pieces of our environment that are leveraged in one way or another for our business. And that's notwithstanding just straight up internet access. And the things that are done, whether it's casual browsing or informative browsing for business purposes, but again, all done from that same endpoint or user that is accessing our business critical applications. And so already we see, significant inconsistencies there. So the problem then becomes, how do we provide consistent visibility, consistent control, and consistent experience across all of those different flavors? And that's really where the concept of SASE, or Secure Access Service Edge, started to really come about, in our space. So the original heritage was the concept of SSE, or Security Service Edge, and that is taking some of the kind of pillar security elements like next-gen firewall and a secure web gateway, and placing them in the cloud, allowing a customer to subscribe to that capability instead of having to deploy it on their own. So that was kind of the original heritage, if you will, of what we now refer to as SASE. When we started seeing advanced network capability being incorporated into that, that really became kind of the next gen SSE, or what we all think of as SASE, Secure Access Service Edge. So nowadays, we've started to settle in on a definition of SASE, and that is the combination of multiple different functions: the Secure Web Gateway, SWG, Zero Trust Network Access, so kind of the evolution of VPN. Instead of just an on-off switch into my network, I need to be more explicit with who gains access, under what condition, what are the attributes that I can use to validate that user, that type of thing. The next-gen firewall capabilities that we're all familiar with, um, web filtering, DNS filtering, understanding, typical vulnerability domains and things like that. And then also incorporating um, cloud access security broker. So this is a security around those cloud delivered services that we subscribe to. How do we have an intermediary between our users and the services that we subscribe to, if we don't manage those services, we need to provide some intermediary there, both for visibility and compliance, but also for security. Now, combining that in with SD-WAN. So SD-WAN as a networking technology has a lot of benefits that organizations can reap in terms of best pass analysis, traffic steering to really take advantage of low cost internet access without sacrificing on performance. So now that we, you know, have stepped forward into kind of today's realm, what we're contending with now in the SASE space is how do we bring those elements together so that they are unified, natively integrated, and we can make them sing, right? We want them to operate so flawlessly and with such high performance that it's really seamless across all of those different user types and scenarios that we talked about before. And that is where Fortinet, as a SASE provider, we have really focused our energy, frankly, not just in SASE, but in everything that we do. We have a pretty wide portfolio. And one of the underpinnings, almost like a foundational, you know, thing that we believe in is native integration, common operating system, and we produce all of these different capabilities. They are already natively integrated, and so for us to deploy them in the cloud and make them available in a subscription or consumption based model is a very natural you know solution um, or architecture for us. So that is kind of the approach that Fortinet has taken to delivering these types of capabilities to our customer base and our partner sets.
Hey, Rebecca, before you
Yep,
get started on the next slide, I
sure.
know we've had some people jump in since we've started. So for everyone, your mics should be accessible. So if you want to just jump in and ask any questions along the way, please do so. Sorry, Rebecca.
Nope, that's perfectly fine. Yep, if there are any questions, please don't be bashful. All right, so what we see in terms of not just SASE, but a unified SASE solution. And again, what I mean by unified is not just that it checks the boxes of all those different capabilities, but it's not doing so with multiple OEMs or kind of vendor partnerships that you then have to figure out how to make work and play well, right? Fortinet's approach is unified in a variety of different ways, actually. One is that we own and operate and produce all of the different capabilities that we just enumerated. They are natively integrated already as part of the SASE solution suite. They have central management. They are applicable for all the different use cases that we've mentioned and we will continue to talk about. So at the end of the day, we're hoping to combat these different challenges that we see on the left. Many times for an organization, if it's not the Fortinet Unified SASE solution, in order to achieve all that capability, there's multiple consoles. There might be multiple agents. There's a variety of different workflows in order to get or kind of reap the benefit of the promise of SASE. So that in and of itself, I mean, one of the whole objectives here is to provide consistency across all of those different use cases. So we don't want to create more complexity in order to do that. And we also don't want to sacrifice on the secure side of things. We don't want to have to have limited or less security in one of those different domains or areas. We want not just consistency, but excellence in all of those different areas. Oh, and it can't cost, the sun and the moon, right? So there has to be a compelling justification as well as, an appealing total cost of ownership. Um, for the solution as well. And oh, by the way, in doing this, we need very detailed level of visibility. There are many organizations that not only visibility to understand what is happening, who's doing what, where, when, but also have a variety of requirements either for regulatory purposes and compliance, for data protection, ensuring or validating protection against data leakage, things like that. So we believe that the Fortinet Unified SASE solution is an approach to delivering all these capabilities while still reducing complexity at a comfortable total cost of ownership with excellent performance and security. It's a very versatile and flexible solution, and it's underpinned by the AI driven capability that Fortinet has been doing for over a dozen years. So I would be remiss if I didn't also touch on one other very important part of not just SASE in general, but a trend that most organizations are at least exploring, if not jumping into in one way or another. And that's the idea of a zero trust approach. So, zero trust is a big category, right? So, really, I think of it as a mindset or a philosophy, frankly. And the idea here is we transition from an implicit trust model to an explicit trust model. What do I mean by that? So it means, if I've knocked on the door and somebody has recognized me, if you will, a la, say, a VPN, my credentials were accepted. Maybe there's two-factor authentication, but essentially I connected. Now I have the ability to access anything I need, right? So there's kind of a one-time check of acceptance at whatever level is appropriate for the business. And after that, it's assumed that that check is still valid for some period of time, usually a day, maybe even indefinitely. But the idea there is if I've passed a check, I'm good to go. What we want to do is flip that around and say, well, we want to be very specific and laser focused with who we allow to access protected assets and services, under what circumstance. And then we want to observe, kind of be attuned to behavioral anomalies and things like this. So, um, there's multiple pieces to this, and there's a lot of different ways that an organization can approach this topic. So, one of the most common ways is identity management. So, that is really digging in deep to users, recognizing who the user is, and providing um, kind of context to their user identity. Multi-factor authentication is usually the first one plucked off the shelf to start really fleshing an identity access management practice in an environment. Another very common one is in and around um, ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access. So this is specific to providing via the network access to protected assets. And even under the hood of this, there's many different pieces. There's a lot of different ways that organizations can go about doing this. And you're, fortunate to be working with a partner like XenTegra. They can help you identify the different approaches, help prioritize which one matters most to you. What are the areas of vulnerability that different pieces of zero trust can, you know, really combat the most. ZTNA tends to be one, again, just like identity management, ZTNA tends to be one of the early adopted areas for organizations. And in this environment, what that translates to, I kind of think of it as like VPN 2.0, right? Or next gen VPN. So historically, our remote users, and almost exclusively remote users, would leverage the legacy technology VPN to provide security, a secure connection from wherever they were out in the world into the corporate location that was housing their applications. So they would open up the VPN client, use their credentials. Perhaps there was multi-factor authentication, but they get in and then they pretty much have access to anything in the network space at that location. So it's very static. It's kind of nailed up. I recall years ago when VPN started to be automatically toggled after a day, and we were all grumbling it wasn't up for a week, right? You know, we had to re-log in every day. Ugh, right? So, but the concept there was once you're allowed through the door, you can do anything inside of that building, right? Figuratively speaking, on the network. The way that Zero Trust approaches network access is to say, instead of doing that to the entire location via one-time check, first of all, we're going to be much more granular. We're going to say at an application level, which specific applications should an individual user have access to? We're also going to recognize that user with a whole variety. We're going to give them context, right? We're going to look at their device itself. What type of device is it? Does it have antivirus turned on? Are the antivirus libraries up to date? Do they have their service packs on their operating system? All these different things that we all know can jeopardize the security of that user's device. Flesh all of that out and then do it in an ongoing way. So my analogy is, if I think about checking into a hotel, do I want a key card that lets me into the entire hotel? I get it once at the beginning of my stay, and now I can get into any room anywhere, right? That's VPN. Whereas ZTNA says, no, yes, I'm accepted as, a hotel guest for an exact amount of days. I can go through a specific hallway because it leads to my door, and that's the only door I can get in. And oh, by the way, there's a policeman at every turn making sure I'm not in the wrong path. I'm not going somewhere I'm not allowed, right? And they'll recheck consistently. So that is really the way to start locking down our networks that now have so many different pieces to them. They're no longer contained in one single building. Applications can be spread in multi-cloud, on-prem, and SaaS offerings, and all integrated into one user experience. So trying to provide security across all of those different domains starts to require a zero trust approach. The beauty of the Fortinet solutions, that ZTNA capability, the ability to be that traffic cop in the hallway, is integrated into our operating system, and all the different components in our portfolio include it, including SASE. So our SASE solution takes all of that heritage and wealth of sophistication and contextualizing the user and who they are to validate, authenticate, and accept them, and direct their traffic. It's deeply integrated with our SD-WAN capability. So not only can we identify and verify that user, we can direct them down the most optimal path to get to whatever they're going to, whether it's internet bound, SaaS bound, AWS, Azure, et cetera bound, or to one of their corporate data centers. And all of that can happen under the hood, silently under the scenes. The user, simply points at whatever application they're trying to get to. And under the hood of SASE, it is able to do that intelligent steering, that sophisticated user context and posturing information, classify their credentials on what they're allowed to get access to, and then deliver that request down the line. There's central management that crosses all of those. So via one portal for the FortiSASE solution, you're able to view, control, and report on all of those different user experiences, including the zero trust components of it. We do also have the ability to integrate that into either our SOC, XenTegra SOC, or your SOC for security operations. So when there's, heaven forbid, but it's kind of inevitable, when there's an attempt to breach into your environment by bad actors, that you can have analysts proactively looking at that, whether they're your analysts, XenTegra's analysts, or our analysts, identify that event, proactively do the research, and then kind of escalate that, if you will, do the triage on that as well. And another beauty of this solution, again, part of our unified approach, is all of those different capabilities and use cases that we touched on are all serviced out of a single agent. So should you deploy FortiSASE and push the agent out to your users, you get a single agent to accommodate all of these different use cases, whether the user is accessing a private application through a secure private access connection, whether they're going to the internet through secure internet or secure web gateway, or whether they're going to a cloud delivered services. And you do that with built-in endpoint protection like antivirus, vulnerability scanning, and so on and so forth. So a tremendous amount of protection that is very easily managed out of a central management console. Okay. So when we look at that, I think we've talked about a lot of this, so I'll probably zip through this one for you fairly quickly. This is when we take a step back and say, what are we talking about here? We are talking about the idea of delivering consistent security to all of our users, no matter where they are located, how they're accessing the internet, right? Internet or private access or what have you, and what they are interacting with, what application and what service or what website they're going to. So consistent and high performance for anyone to anything, right? So that's really the goal pretty much of all networking and security. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. And behind the scenes, I'm not going to get into too much gory detail unless you guys are really interested to dig into one or another. We really like to add things into our SASE solution, kind of bundle it in. So every FortiSASE entitlement includes the secure web gateway capability, the firewall as a service capability, CASB, which is that intermediary for cloud delivered services. So think, oh gosh, Salesforce.com as an example, or Office 365. You know, these are very commonly leveraged services where an organization will have an instance in that cloud offering, but no visibility or control behind the scenes on how it's operating, you know, what's going on, who is accessing whatever, right in there. So SASE provides the ability to push an agent down to my remote users that ensures they always connect into the SASE POP, thereby making sure that me, as the corporate IT kind of responsible party, I am responsible for ensuring consistent security across my entire company, for example, then I can make sure that my users are not accessing outside of my control or visibility, right? So it provides an always on ramp. You can allow or disallow that. You can allow or disallow your users to disconnect out of SASE. It's really up to you. It's very flexible. But should you choose to enforce a level of consistency, you definitely have the ability to do that. There's also remote browser isolation capability. So that's, you know, think users going to whatever they're going to on the internet, they click on something that is doing a scan of their computer or what have you. So what RBI or remote browser isolation provides is the ability for that piece to occur in our POP. So it separates it off your users' devices. It protects your users from being exposed to whatever those web servers might be up to, right? And then again, FortiSASE can act as that zero trust gateway enforcer, that hallway traffic cop. It can do the traffic steering, path steering, and that type of thing, either for security or for optimization purposes. You know, pick the right path based on performance. And for those customers or those network environments that also are leveraging SD-WAN, we can integrate FortiSASE into the existing SD-WAN topology. So it can become another traffic delivery mechanism for your private access connectivity. super flexible, and we get really, really high marks for not only consistency of experience, but ease of use. So I would also be remiss if I didn't talk about this. So those security pops, one of the things that sets Fortinet apart is the sheer number of security pops that we have deployed around the world. We've invested well over $1 billion in security infrastructure at the various pops around the world. Every single Fortinet SASE pop that's like a security pop has that entire security stack in it. So when you think about a SASE solution, one of the things to be aware of is, are all the different security measures that you want to take advantage of, are they all easily accessible out of the POP you're connecting to? Well, in the Fortinet universe, that's easy because every POP has every capability. We don't have some POPs with DLP, data leak protection, and some without. We every single POP has that full lineup of capabilities we looked at. And we have, as I mentioned, well over 150. And that's a combination of Fortinet private cloud locations where we've deployed the Fortinet cloud in a lot of cases at Equinix locations. Those are the like co-located with Azure, AWS, et cetera, POPs. We also have many, well over 100 POPs deployed specifically within Google Cloud Network as well. And so depending on which level of service you're interested in, you have access to any combination of those that you'd like. Okay. And then I mentioned earlier our unified agent. So not only is FortiSASE kind of those security pops completely unified, all features on every pop supporting both private and internet-bound traffic, our agents are as well. So our agent is called FortiClient. That entitlement is included with your FortiSASE. So when you sign up for FortiSASE, you will pick the number of users that will be connecting into FortiSASE, and every user is granted the full boat, if you will, of FortiClient agent. So some of these items are specific to FortiSASE, but some are bonus items, right? So there's a whole segment of endpoint protection capability that comes with your FortiSASE entitlement, like vulnerability scanning, web filtering, antivirus. There's a really cool ransomware rollback capability where it has the ability to detect ransomware um, uh, like attempts and be able to roll back whatever lock was made on the files and things like that. Data leak protection, inline sandboxing, you name it, this client has it. And again, built into the FortiSASE entitlement, should you go that route. And don't take our word for it. So I say that jokingly because we have so many analyst reports, it's ridiculous. But I did want to pick a couple that are related to SASE. So Fortinet has been a leader on multiple, oh my gosh, so many different quadrants by Gartner. The ones that I put up here are the ones that relate to FortiSASE. Under the hood of FortiSASE is our next-gen firewall capability called the FortiGate, which is also our SD-WAN device, which is also our wired and wireless device controller, all combined into one solution. So that one same solution is kind of represented here on this view. We are a leader or a challenger in multiple different areas, and you inherit all of that kind of history and capability should you subscribe to the FortiSASE solution suite. One that, frankly, I value even more than that is the peer insight survey that Gartner does, where they not just the analysts that assess market vendors and things like that, and market manufacturers, technologists, but this is actually a survey of existing customers. So this is basically asking, are you satisfied with your solution? Is it doing what it needs to do? Are you protected, et cetera? Fortinet is the only cybersecurity vendor that is the in the leader section for 5 different quadrants. Again, all very relevant to FortiSASE. So we have been and we remain the customer choice for firewall, for SSE, for SD-WAN, for endpoint protection, and for wired and wireless LAN infrastructure. All of that capability is built into the FortiSASE. Of course, security service edges, but all of those others are included in your FortiSASE entitlement as well. So to me, this speaks very highly because these are customers that have already invested in the Fortinet technology, and whether they're satisfied or they have buyer's remorse, right? Is it doing what they need it to do? And we get overwhelmingly high marks with that. And then one last one, and I promise I'm done with analysts and third-party review. This one also speaks to me. I am an engineer, so the propeller on my head is showing now. We regularly get tested by third-party efficacy testing. So yes, we check the box, but are we actually blocking vulnerabilities and providing a high protection rate? And we are AAA high marks every single time. Always very consistently. And again, we just had the Cyber Ratings org just did an independent testing of FortiSASE, released it, I think, about a month and a half ago or so. And again, top marks. So to me, this is the kind of trifecta, right? The proof is in the pudding. Do customers that have actually purchased it, are they happy? Are they protected, right? So that, I think, speaks very highly. And at the end of the day, the objective here is to reduce risk for you on data protection, on vulnerabilities, and we know that ever-growing bad actor community that's out there. So we believe that FortiSASE is able to help our customers and our partners reduce the risk in a multitude of different ways. It's very versatile, so you don't have to knock all these down at once. You have the ability to just start with SSE, just the security pieces, deploy them up in the cloud. Let's lock down our end users or our remote users. Let's start with that, and then we can slowly layer zero trust in as we need to. Many of these things become a phased kind of journey. That's, hence the word journey, but a phased implementation. And the beauty of the Fortinet Unified SASE solution, because it supports all of these different combinations, you can do that without changing, migrating products, et cetera, learning new tools, a new cost cycle on renewal and all that kind of stuff, right? So again, trying to provide you a roadway, a pathway to being able to accomplish these in any order you want without creating complexity by doing it. All right, so in terms of the outcome that our users see, our customers routinely give us feedback in a variety of different areas, but the big ones are consistent security with less effort, less cost, and increased experience, performance, etc. Okay, so kind of hearkening back to that original objective, which is we want consistent security and experience for all users, any user going to anything. Oh, and let's not break the bank while we do it, right? So I have a few examples of customers that have gone through this. I'm looking at the time, and I think we've got about 10 more minutes left. So I might zip through these super quick, and then we will wrap up for today. So this is a customer of ours who unfortunately experienced a pretty substantial breach about a year ago in their cloud workspaces. And we know cloud can be tricky because sometimes we leverage either the integrated firewall that's built into the cloud provider or what have you, or we just don't have great visibility there. Um, or it's just too complicated. So again, unfortunately, part of their pain was they did suffer a breach, and it kind of awakened them to the fact that they had very inconsistent security across their environment. Now, this was a school district, so they've got applications that they use as an organization, but they also provide internet and learning access for their students. Very large infrastructure, 45,000 staff and administration, teachers and administration, well over 300,000 students across 400 different locations. So talk about sprawl, right? So what they needed to be able to do was address the inconsistency piece. So they needed different parts of their environment and different use cases for the network environment to have consistent experience. They didn't have a ton of budget. We know school districts, they're on a particular budget cycle. They also didn't have a huge staff to roll out this. They did already have two of our technologies, FortiGate, which is our next gen firewall, at their data center locations, and FortiNAC, which is the ability to recognize the type of device that is attempting to connect into the network. So think all those students connecting on their cell phones, the ability to uniquely identify bring your own device scenarios. And so they leveraged FortiSASE as a mechanism to lock down their Chromebooks, lock down the laptops that the school provided for users, provide um, a web portal for their users to access different services and capabilities, and then provide consistent overarching management and visibility across all of those different deployment models. And they were able to do that with a consolidated kind of single platform approach to the traditional pieces as well as the student experience pieces with SASE. And as a side note, I happen to be familiar with this one. The next thing they're rolling out is internet on their school buses. They're going to lock that down via SASE as well because they provide um, internet services out of the school buses for their users. And to date, that hadn't been something they were prepared to start enforcing the regulatory content inspection and whatnot on those, but that's kind of the next piece in their puzzle as they start to lock down and provide consistency even deeper out to their users. So I think I may skip through just in the interest in time. The thing that I will kind of mention on this one, this happens to be a media company based out of Germany, but it operates in 8 different countries. So one of the really nice aspects, a couple really nice aspects of FortiSASE that this organization was able to take advantage of is that FortiSASE can be integrated via single sign-on with existing identity databases that you might already maintain. So whether that's Active Directory or in this case, Entra ID, it has the ability to interact and provide single sign-on with those, to leverage those identity databases that are already in existence and not recreate the wheel there. Since FortiSASE is a globally provided service offering with over 150 POPs, we have the ability to provide secure POPs very close to the different user sets. So this particular organization spun up multiple different POPs around the world to ensure a very consistent and high performing experience for all of those users. And they took advantage of some of the um, like geo-pinning and geo-fencing capability, which is locking down users to specific countries to ensure that there wasn't, you know, um, access from outside of the country or what have you to again further layer in security because a successful security posture is a layered security posture, absolutely for sure. And they were able to do this again with keeping within their budget which had been quite tight for them. Another organization, a large Asian bank. So again, what I tried to do was give you give you a smattering of a variety of different use cases from a variety of different industries. So, again, the idea here, 200 branches, thousands of users, the ability to provide consistent experience to those users, whether they're accessing the services and applications that are housed at their own data center or up in their hybrid cloud environment that they were just starting to kick off. Okay. So in closing, what I hope we're able to kind of touch on and start to get an understanding of is, you know, the things that Fortinet really shines with on the SASE solution. Yes, we have all the check boxes, the line items of what you would expect out of any SASE solution, but we're doing that in an extremely flexible way. That single solution suite with a single management console, single visibility console, and single agent is able to provide a very versatile and flexible solution for a variety of use cases under the same platform and same kind of unified view, if you will. And underpinning all of that is the Fortinet intelligence kind of threat hunting engine and integrated services that we are known for, right? So we have been investing in that for well over a dozen years, and all of that is tightly integrated into the FortiSASE solution. And the result of that is, um, you know, better threat hunting and protection for your environment. We're able to identify and investigate an unparalleled number of vulnerabilities and threats, and so we're able to protect against those. All right.
All right.
So that was it for my prepared solution. If there are any questions, please feel free to chime in.
Yeah, are there any questions before we conclude here? I do have a couple of closing remarks, but does anyone want to chime in?
Yep. I didn't see anything come through the chat, so
Okay.
don't be bashful. It's okay.
Well, hey, there are a couple things that I do want to kind of highlight. I saw this brief about a year ago. Clearly, the innovation at Fortinet, it just keeps on going because there's a lot more here than what was there even a year ago. So I love that about the Fortinet solution. Rebecca, you mentioned it, and I know we're really short on time, but you mentioned the ability to take that SASE journey, right? I think there's this idea that if you go SASE, you've got to go from traditional networking directly over to SASE like all at once. But you talked about a SASE path, so I just want to make sure everyone that's here heard that and how important I think that is, because not only is it the ability to integrate over time as your business grows or changes, but it's able to kind of correlate to key things that happen within the organization. Let's say your firewalls are becoming end of life. Well, that's a good time to look at SASE. Maybe firewall as a service might be a solution for you, or your infrastructure is aging and now you have the prospect of upgrading a lot of switches. You don't have to do that here. You can jump into SASE, and then you can drop that capital expenditure and move that over to an operational expenditure. So I love that about the Fortinet solution, and I appreciate you bringing that out. Um, you know, we had some folks jump on kind of midway, so I wanted to just go back quickly to the conference passes. So XenTegra is offering conference passes to three key security events. One is the Fortinet conference, Fortinet Accelerate. Now, Rebecca, that's in Berlin this year, right?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. So,
that's right.
hey, if someone wants to go to Berlin, contact me, contact your account manager, and let's get you a pass to get out to Fortinet Accelerate in Berlin.
That's right.
I'm also doing 90% discounted passes out to RSA. That's I believe late April through early May. And then we're also doing 90% discounted conference passes to Black Hat, which is in August this year. So if you're interested, contact us. In my initial slides, kind of I went over the raffle item that we were doing. My team just sent me kind of an update that they've did the raffle, and so there's three individuals that got selected for that. One is Jason Perotti, another is Jeff Mack, and then another is Ron Mason. So the team will be reaching out to contact you so that Fortinet can get that out to you. Rebecca, thanks so much for your time. Everyone, thank you for participating, and we enjoyed it.
Yep. Appreciate everybody's interest.
Okay, thank you. Bye.